The crowd was buzzing, the lights were bright, and the cameras rolled as Jimmy Fallon's iconic desk lit up for another live episode. Backstage, Ritchson paced nervously. He had been a guest on talk shows before, but tonight felt different. Something in the air felt tense, charged, almost electric. Earlier that day, a reporter had published a piece about Allen's latest film, suggesting that he had clashed with the director on set. Allen knew the piece was exaggerated, but he couldn't shake the feeling that this would follow him into the studio. As the producers called his name, Allen stepped onto the stage. The applause was warm, but his eyes immediately locked onto Jimmy, who was smirking, unaware of the storm brewing in Allen's mind. Jimmy began the usual banter, joking about Allen's action movie stunts, teasing him lightly. But when Jimmy made a passing comment about on-set drama, Allen felt a spark of irritation. The comment wasn't malicious, yet it hit a nerve. Allen tried to brush it off, giving a professional smile. But inside, anger bubbled. He had rehearsed his answers, rehearsed his charm, but the subtle dig made him feel cornered. He started responding sharply, his tone clipped, a contrast to his usual friendly demeanor. The audience laughed, thinking it was part of the act, but Allen's heart raced. Backstage, the crew exchanged worried glances. Allen's manager mouthed a silent warning, trying to signal him to dial it back. But Allen couldn't. The words that had been pent up for weeks spilled out, one after another, each answer sharper than the last. Jimmy's smirk faltered. The banter had taken a dark turn. The live audience sensed the tension. A ripple went through the crowd as Jimmy leaned in, trying to regain control of the conversation. Allen's voice grew louder, more insistent, his hands gesturing passionately. He wasn't just reacting to the comment, he was confronting weeks of frustration, criticism and gossip that had shadowed him for too long. By the time the segment ended, the studio was silent for a beat. Allen gave a tight nod and strode off the stage. Jimmy sat frozen for a moment, processing the unexpected clash. The cameras kept rolling, but the atmosphere had changed. Something had snapped. And everyone backstage knew this was more than just an argument. It was a spectacle that would be dissected in headlines the next day. As soon as the episode ended, Allen retreated to his dressing room. His manager followed. Speaking in hurried whispers, "Allen, we need to handle this carefully. The clips are already going viral." Allen sank into the chair, running a hand over his face. He knew the story wouldn't just stay on social media, it would explode. On every entertainment outlet, the crew outside whispered among themselves. Some admired Allen's candor, while others wondered if he had crossed a line. The producers debated whether to release a statement or let the dust settle. Meanwhile, Jimmy went to the green room, visibly shaken. He had dealt with difficult guests before, but Allen's eruption had been raw, unfiltered and unexpected. Online, the footage spread like wildfire. Fans replayed the moment where Allen's intensity overtook the usually lighthearted show. Comment sections divided into camps. Some praised Allen for his honesty, while others criticized him for overreacting. Allen's phone buzzed relentlessly with texts, calls, and social media notifications. Amid the chaos, Allen's publicist stepped in. "We need a narrative," she said firmly. "We can spin this as passion, honesty, authenticity. But we can't ignore the tension. We need to address it carefully." Allen nodded, though part of him wanted to retreat from the limelight entirely. Later that evening, Allen watched interviews and clips of himself on various channels. His heart sank slightly. His words had been edited and replayed, making the confrontation seem more explosive than it had felt live. Still, there was a strange satisfaction in the knowledge that he had stood his ground, refused to let a trivial comment undermine his integrity. Meanwhile, Jimmy prepared a segment for the next episode, rehearsing a few lines that might address Allen's outburst. He wasn't sure if he would publicly comment or simply let the incident fade into memory. Behind the scenes, tension lingered like smoke. Everyone knew that the fallout from this clash was only beginning. The next morning, Allen received a mysterious message. "Meet me at the studio now." It was unsigned, but the urgency was unmistakable. Curiosity and caution wrestled in his mind, yet he felt compelled to go. At the studio, he found Jimmy waiting, not with cameras or crew, but alone in the empty set. "Allen," Jimmy said softly, "about last night." His voice lacked the usual humor, replaced by sincerity. "I think we both let this get out of hand." Alan hesitated, then exhaled. The tension between them seemed to hang in the air like a storm cloud. But then Jimmy surprised him. "I want to propose something," he said. "A follow-up segment. Not the usual jokes this time. We talk about honesty, pressure, and what it means to face criticism." Alan blinked, caught off guard. The idea was risky but intriguing. It was a chance to turn a viral clash into a meaningful conversation, to control the narrative rather than letting gossip define him. He agreed, and they began planning a segment that would be both tense and revealing, blending suspense, truth, and the unexpected. When the cameras rolled again, Alan walked onto the set, not as a guest under attack, but as someone who had reclaimed his story. The audience felt it. The tension was still there. But now it was charged with purpose rather than conflict. The segment unfolded with careful suspense, questions and answers that exposed fears, frustrations, and raw honesty. By the end, the applause was genuine, the energy transformed. Alan and Jimmy exchanged a knowing glance, a silent acknowledgement that conflict could lead to understanding if navigated carefully. Outside, the world buzzed with speculation and praise. But inside the studio, something rare had been achieved. Resolution born from confrontation. Tension turned into a story worth telling.